Something quiet and high stakes just happened in Moscow this week, and the details are still unfolding. CIA Director John Ratcliffe flew into the Russian capital on an unannounced trip that lasted only a handful of hours. A large U.S. military transport plane left Joint Base Andrews near Washington, made a stop in Riga, Latvia, and touched down at Vnukovo Airport. Ratcliffe stayed on the ground for about 8.5 hours before the same plane carried him home. Flight trackers picked up the movement almost right away. Sources familiar with the travel confirmed he was on board. The meeting stayed with Russian intelligence officials. President Putin received a full briefing afterward. This kind of visit stands out. The last time a serving CIA director traveled to Moscow was back in November 2021. That earlier trip carried a clear message in the tense months before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Now, more than 4 years into the war, another CIA chief has made the same journey. President Trump later called the talks semi-routine and said something may come out of them. He tied the visit to the ongoing push to bring the fighting in Ukraine to a close, noting that both sides share an interest in seeing it end. The timing and the method give the whole episode extra weight. Ukrainian forces have been hitting targets deeper inside Russia. Long-range strikes have reached areas near Moscow and St. Petersburg. At the same time, the United States asked Kyiv to pause certain drone operations for a few days while the American plane was in Russian airspace. Kyiv agreed. That careful coordination points to a visit planned with real precision. So what might have filled those hours of conversation? Several strong possibilities are circulating among people who follow these channels closely. One clear focus appears to be a direct message about NATO. Reports suggest Ratcliffe pressed Russian officials on the importance of holding back from any action against alliance members, especially the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Those countries sit right on Russia's northwestern border. The stop in Riga on the way in adds a quiet layer of meaning. Delivering that kind of message in person through intelligence channels keeps the conversation frank and controlled. Iran also seems to have been part of the discussion. Russia and Iran have built closer military and economic ties during the war. Ratcliffe reportedly urged a scaling back of that support. Cutting or limiting the flow of technology, components, and other assistance would ease pressure on several fronts at once. Intelligence directors often handle these subjects because the talks can stay detailed and private. Ukraine itself remains central. The Trump administration has made ending the conflict a priority. Special envoys have already held rounds of talks. Ratcliffe joined that broader effort last year. Even when the meetings stay with intelligence counterparts, those channels can carry ideas about possible steps forward, prisoner exchanges, or limits on the fighting. A quiet day in Moscow can still move pieces on a very large board. Practical working issues likely shared the table as well. Ratcliffe has kept regular contact with his Russian counterpart, the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service, since early in his tenure. Those conversations cover areas of mutual interest and ways to keep friction lower. In the past, he helped work out the release of a dual national held in Russia. Similar quiet business, detainee matters, deconfliction arrangements, or steady back-channel updates fits the pattern of these visits. Strategic stability topics often travel the same route. Nuclear issues and long-standing communication lines between the two countries continue even when other relations stay strained. Hybrid activities, cyber questions, and influence efforts sometimes surface in the same rooms. Keeping those lines open allows both sides to clear up misunderstandings before they grow. The way the trip unfolded tells its own story. A military cargo plane, a short window on the ground, meetings held entirely through intelligence channels, public comments kept brief. Russian officials confirmed the contacts and described them as a positive process while noting that overall relations remain in a deep crisis. American officials offered only the president's short remarks. That measured silence creates space. It lets messages land without forcing either side into a public stance. What comes next stays open. Peace efforts on Ukraine have moved in fits and starts before. Messages about escalation and restraint have been delivered in earlier rounds. Cooperation on Iran or detainee releases can advance quietly when both sides see advantage. The simple fact of the visit shows that direct contact at this level still carries value. Those channels can deliver firm points, explore openings, and keep lines of communication alive. For the moment, the picture is still coming into focus. We know Ratcliffe traveled. We know the talks stayed with intelligence officials. We know the president sees possible progress tied to the war in Ukraine. The visit has already sparked thoughtful discussion about warnings concerning NATO, pressure on Iran ties, and the search for practical steps that could lower the temperature of the fighting. Future moves on the ground and in further quiet conversations will show how much weight this particular day in Moscow carries. The story is still live. New details may surface in the days ahead. For now, this unannounced flight and those closed-door hours stand as a clear reminder that even in a long and difficult relationship, the highest levels of intelligence keep talking. Stay tuned as more of the picture comes clear.